Thank you. Let me just take this thing here away. Let me pick that a bit bigger. So we have stopped almost on the end of the item 29. So I'll read again the test highlight, and then we carry on. However, an explanation that is prepared beforehand has the effect of destroying preconceived ideas and showing at least the possibility, if not the entire reality of the fact, which is thus comprehended before it's seen. So, by accepting the possibility of a fact, 3/4 of the convictions has been realized. And I think that it's paramount to all of us to use facts, to use reason, to exercise the possibility that we all have to make questions, that we all have to study, to research. And that's very good, because it's not something that is centralized for a small group. It's not something that is cast aside, only few chosen people have access to. No, we all have access, we all have the same means to achieve what is there to everyone. So this is one of the beauty of Spiritism, especially nowadays with the internet. It's very unlikely someone can say, I could not find, I do not know, I cannot buy a book or something. But I had the pleasure to start the Spiritism with people that they could not even buy a book because there was no books to sell in the city. That was so difficult at the time to get a book that when someone got a book was something to be remarked, and everybody was happy because there was a way to get a knowledge that was so far away from where we were. So today the distances are shortened. So it's just to us to decide to look after, to search or not. But it also there is a word here that I think is very, very important, is preconceived. A lot of mediums suffer from preconceived ideas. A lot of mediums suffer from preconceived ideas from those that are supposed to give comfort to the mediumship. Why is that? Because sometimes we interpret things as we want to interpret, and we are not open to see things with a different pair of eyes. We are not open to try to interpret things in a different way. And we simply close the door to a lot of opportunities, especially when it's a new medium, is someone developing his mediumship. We need to be very careful with preconceived ideas about something. Remember that, as an example, Kardec, he revised his own books. The first Spirit book was not what we have today. So he is an example that we should not have preconceived ideas. So that's something that's always important to keep in mind. It will be of any use at all to try to convince obstinate disbelievers. We have already stated that this will depend on the cause and nature of their disbelief. Our insistence in trying to persuade them often leads them to believe in their own self-importance. which in turns leads them to be even more obstinate. Those who are neither convinced by reasoning nor phenomena still have the trial of disbelief to endure. And we must have to providence the task of leading them onto the path of more favorable circumstances. Let me read all of it, because I think that on the end we can make some comments. There are too many other people who desire to receive the light for us to waste our time. Oh, I will highlight that here. On those who will reject it. Therefore, direct your efforts towards those with goodwill, who are greater in number than you might think. Your example will overcome any resistance more easily than will mere words. True Spiritists never lack an opportunity to do good, afflicted hearts to relieve, consolation to offer, desperate emotions to calm, moral reforms to instill. This is their mission. Herein, they will find true satisfaction. Spiritism pervades the atmosphere. It is expanding because of the very force of circumstances and because it enables those who profess it to be happy. When it is theoric adversaries here, it's surrounding all around them. Even among their own friends, they will come to grips with their isolation and will be forced either to fall silent or surrender. I think we for the last couple of weeks, we are talking about that, right? How we should act or how we should be in front of people that do not believe or people that we want to convince or they want to convince us. So this is the same subject. Two things got my attention in this test. Waste our time. I used to say that I don't waste my time with things that I don't believe will have a result. There is a sentence we use quite often today that it's called time management. If we do have an X amount of tasks a day, if we deviate too much, we will not accomplish those tasks we decide to do or we committed ourselves to do. And Kardec is telling us here the same thing. We should not waste our time. We need to be careful with that. Even in a mediumship meeting, some spirits, they come to our meeting to communicate through the mediums with this objective. He will get a subject, he will start to talk about something, and he will go on and on and on. And the objective is only one, waste time. Remember that in a mediumship meeting, we have, let's say, 1 hour meeting. If one spirit take half an hour of this meeting with blah, 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 what's going to happen with the other spirits that were planned to also receive assistance? It happens, it is normal. And as we move along, we will learn how to deal with that, or how to minimize that possibility. But now going back to incarnated people, it's the same thing. It's exactly the same. Some of the people will come just to try to waste your time or even something more complicated, but I'll leave that aside. So that was one of the things that got my attention. And the one that's most important to me is, by our example, we will convince more than through a dialogue, than through a discussion. Giving our examples day to day with our family, with our co-workers, on the streets, is more effective than trying to prove anything by books, or it doesn't work. It doesn't work. You can only convince someone that wants to be convinced. Otherwise, they're going to happen. I need to remind you all that I don't see you guys, right? I see 1 or 2 people only. So if you have people just raising their hand like that, please open the mic and go on, because I won't see you all. In order to proceed with the teachings of Spiritism in the same manner as occur in the other ordinary sciences, so Kardec is telling us here that Spiritism is also a science. It would be necessary to review the entire strings of phenomena that may be produced, starting with the simplest and then progressing successively to the most complicated. This is a very nice tip to all of us, especially if we are just arriving in the Spiritism. We should not try to understand complicated things before we comprehend things that are more straightforward. And I can use myself as example. Books that I read today, I was definitely not able to read 20 years ago. Some of them I was not able to read 10 years ago. Some of them I could not read 5 years ago because there was too much. But as we move along slowly, when we deepen our will in the books, if I can use that expression, when I use my will to really study Spiritism, then you start to prepare yourself to different information, to different books. I remember receiving as a gift a couple of books. I was trying to read the first, second page and then, okay, thank you. That's not for now. And then I kept the book on the shelf for many years. And by the way, some of them is still on the shelf. I could not open because it was so complicated that I said, that's not for me. Not yet. Perhaps one day, perhaps only in next reincarnation, but who knows?
And Guilherme, also like with time, even those books that we are able to understand now and comprehend, with time, when we go back to read again, we have again a different understanding with time.
Yeah, yes, we do. Yes, we do. And funny thing is, even books that we think we know, that we think we are okay, sometimes we are not okay. Because down the line, we hear someone saying something, or we open ourselves to different interpretations, and then we see, how is that? I could not see that before.
Yeah.
It was there, you know?
I think we all have to resign to the fact that we are in this journey, and every day we have to understand that we have to be open to all the lessons as much as possible, to be able to reflect on the things that we already know, understand the things that we have known until now, and keep on doing it, and always reflecting and always learning new things.
Something that I like to say a lot, Liz, is we need to exercise our right to make questions. We need to exercise our right to say, I do not agree with that. And even the other day, I was using an example that, I don't know if she's here, Ebony, but I used an example that I was almost jumping in my chair when she said in her life, I don't agree with you. I said, oh my God, I love it. She does not agree with me. And that's wonderful. Why I'm saying that? We all should exercise our right to do that. I don't agree with that, or I don't understand 100% of what you're saying, or I don't understand anything at all, or I have a different perspective. Have you ever thought about this matter from this angle? Perhaps I didn't. So we all should do that. I see that as a duty. Spiritists, we need to love one another, and we need to educate ourselves. How can we educate ourselves if I just nod my head every time I hear something? It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Imagine if Kardec, for example, the first answer he had from the spirit, yes, you are a very elevated spirit, I'm nothing, so I accept everything you say. It doesn't work like that. He made questions and questions. We can even read in the Spirit's book sometime. We told you already. That means he's asking and asking again and asking again. Why? Because he wants to confirm if he understood everything right. He wants to confirm if the information makes sense. He checked between spirit A and B if the answer was the same. And only after he was, yeah, okay, I exercised the best I can my right to make questions, and now I'm happy. And then he put that on the book. We should be the same. Oh, well, I don't want to be like Kardec. We are so far away from Kardec, that's clear. But we should use the same tools he showed us how to use. So if you have an opportunity, make questions. However, such would be impossible because one cannot take a course in experimental spiritism as if they were a course in physics or chemistry. I agree what he's saying, but this can be interpreted by some people that we should not do any experimental. We should not try do any experimental. I truly believe that one part of the Spiritist Center duties, if I can say, is to have mediumship experimental mediumship studies, experimental mediumship meetings, to give opportunity to mediums and to practice charity. A lot of people have fear. A lot of Spiritist Center do not engage themselves in mediumship meetings because they are afraid. It doesn't make sense to me, because if I'm part of a Spiritist philosophy, if that has been brought to us by the spirits, why should I have fear to engage myself in some experiments like that? Remember that Kardec brought the mediumship's book. Kardec brought instructions. I even make a note here, just a minute. Practical instructions for the Spiritists. That was the first book ever that he worked with. Practical instructions. So what he's giving to us is straight away, hey guys, he's a safety guideline to you to be able to do not everything, but at least part of it. And later on, he amplified that with the medium's book. If we do follow what is in the medium's book, if we really understand what is there, because sometimes it's not easy, but if you do understand and if you practice as per instructions, chances are that everything will work fine. So that I hear what he's saying here, but I believe we need to keep that opportunity open on every Spiritist Center as well.
Bill, it's Christine.
Hi, Christine. I don't see you. How are you doing?
Hi. Doing well, thanks. Just on what you said, in Australia, we don't, as I've said, I think I've said before, we don't have many spiritist groups that I'm aware of. We have mediums who meet, who don't understand Kardec, follow Kardec principles. They just believe they're a medium and they don't fully understand what that means. They just think, oh, well, yes, I can talk to dead people, and that's how they put it. And some people I know who've gone to those groups, they get disillusioned because they want to know more. They want to know, how did this come about? it can't have just evolved from nowhere. It's, you know, what's the meaning behind it? So whoever I can talk to, whoever I hear a conversation about this, I actually start talking about, instead of me saying you should go and look for Alan Kardec, I say your starting point should be a movie which is called Alan Kardec. You go and have a look at that. And that's all I say, because I don't want to start giving too much, saying too much, because I don't know too much. But I believe that movie was very good in terms of what we're studying and complementing what you've just said.
Mm-hmm. I agree with you. And something came to my mind that I have a friend that when I asked him, have you ever read this book? Did they make a movie already? Because he wants to go to the movies instead of going to the book, because it's easier to him. So yes, it is easier to people to have a general understanding through Kardec's movie. I agree with you. It's a good thing. I know that in your country, you don't have many opportunities as a Spiritist center or people that know that. But there is a way to start slowly. You start things with a group that are really interested in study. You start to study the Spiritist book, start to study the Medium's book, and slowly, that's the way things start. Most of the Spirit Center in Brazil, and we have thousands in Brazil, they started in the garage, in the room that nobody was using at home. 2, 3 people start to gather together to study one book, for example. And from that, more people used to come together, more and more and more. And then the area was not sufficient to hold up everybody in the same room, on the same garage. And then they moved away for a different place. So most of the groups that today are like 90 few years old, they started like that. So eventually that will happen, not only in Australia, but everywhere. People start, 2 people studying, 3 people studying, but you have to have people that are really interesting to learn, and then from that things may come back to people may come back with more questions, they may come back with other possibilities, and that's the way I see things progressing. Not only in your country, but everywhere. And even today, if I'm talking about a few places in Brazil, when there's a center next door, but there's a group that start to study at my mom's place, for example. A couple of years down the line, they decide to open up a different place. They decide to come rent a place just for that study, and things start to increase. You don't start a mediumship meeting, you don't start a Spiritist center like that. It takes a bit of time, but does not take like 100 years, but take a little bit of time. When is the... Need to say anything else?
Oh, I'm sorry, no.
Okay,
I'll put myself on silent. I'll take over if I do.
No, because I don't see you, so I don't know. When studying the natural sciences, one is dealing with raw matter, which can be manipulated at will, and the effects may almost certainly be controlled. But with the Spiritism, one must deal with intelligences who are gifted with freedom and who at every instant prove that they are not at all subject to our capricious whims. Let me stop here. There's a lot of misconception. Even between... Sorry? Anyone want to say anything? I guess not. even among Spiritists, we have people that have different perceptions about few subjects. We see Spiritists trying to ask things for the spirits, things that they should not ask. We have people trying to ask things for themselves all the time. What should I do? Should I buy this? Should I choose this? Should I go there? Should I not go there? And this is part of what Kardec said here, our capricious whims, right? We should leave all of it aside. If it's something to promote and perform charity, the elevated spirits will be always available to help. Other than that, I have a hard time to see that happening, right? Even though we that participate in mediumship meetings, from time to time, we see one instructive message. We know that most of the time they are coming with suffering spirits because they are the ones who need help, right? So if for one reason or another, one elevated spirit's coming to our meeting, should I ask him what type of car should I buy next month? Should I ask, do I need to play in the lottery? Will you help me to win the lottery? Very unlikely he will come back again because he has things more important to do. So we need to keep that in mind, right? Contact with the spirits is to help people, help mainly discarnated spirits in the mediumship meeting, okay? Thus, it is necessary to observe, to await the results, and reap them as they occur. That is why we vehemently state, all those who would flatter themselves by imagining they can obtain results at will are nothing more than ignorant persons or imposters. To give you guys an example, from time to time we receive questions. Can you ask in the mediumship meeting? This person is in trouble, we want to know something. The right answer is yes, we can always ask. But I cannot guarantee we'll have an answer. Because I can't. I cannot guarantee I'll have an answer. Sometimes we have even some answers from the spirits we are familiar with, and they tell us we don't have the authorization to answer. Because there is a hierarchy on the divine world. Things from God is not like what they want to do. They have to follow instructions. They have to follow limitations as well. They have limitations as well. So sometimes if you hear someone saying, yeah, bring that to me, and then, yeah, you have an answer. You can even have that on the beginning. And then some mediums, because they think that's very, very important to themselves, when they stop to have that connection with the spirits, they start to fabricate the answers themselves because they are so used to have that amount of people around and asking, and he felt so important because he's giving answers. And we need to be very, very careful with that too. But that is a different subject that is in the book, in the middle of the book, I believe. That is also why true Spiritism will never put on exhibitions or resort to stage shows. It would, moreover, be illogical to suppose that spirits would ever take part in such exhibitions and submit themselves to research like objects of curiosity. We see that from time to time, isn't it? Mediums that rent theaters to bring letters, bringing this, bringing that. We need to be careful, very careful. I'm not saying that there are not serious people doing it, but there are people that we need to be very careful with them. And one thing that got my attention here is that curiosity. Curiosity in a mediumship meeting could be a problem, could bring disruption, change in the vibration, right? He's saying here, research with curiosity is not kind of welcome, right? But researchers with proper objective to help humankind, to help people, that is a different thing. That they are welcome with open arms. Hence, the phenomena may not occur at the most desired moment, or they might occur in a much different way than what we intended. We might add further in the order to obtain them. We need persons who are endowed with special faculties, and such faculties vary widely, depending on the aptitude of each particular individual. In addition, since it is extremely rare for one and the same individual to possess all the various aptitudes, the difficulty increases due to always having to have a truly complete collection of mediums at our disposal, which in itself would never be possible. When we're talking about a mediumship meeting where we have, let's say, 15 people in the meeting, we will find some types of mediumship, but not all of them. And perhaps you can even have mediums that can have different characteristics. For example, mediums that are medium effect, physical effects mediums, they can be in the meeting, but in that meeting, because the nature of the meeting is a bit different, you will not see any phenomena, because that meeting has an objective. It's not a meeting to please who is in the meeting. If the medium with this characteristic is in the meeting, probably is there donating more energy than anyone else, but we should not expect to see materializations, transport, or anything like that, because that particular meeting does not have that as an objective. The way to remedy such an inconvenience is really quite simple. One only needs to begin with the theory. Herein, all the phenomena are reviewed and explained, and herein, one can recognize them and understand the possibility that they will occur, and can know about the conditions under which they may be produced, and the obstacles that may be encountered. Let me stop here. If not, I will forget later. We need to understand what are the conditions required to have the phenomena, to have a mediumship meeting. When we understand the conditions, it's a bit easier to understand the obstacles, because then that will have an opportunity to evaluate what went wrong or what could be wrong. But without having the knowledge about those minimum conditions, it is a risk to engage ourselves to start a new mediumship meeting. That's why we always recommend, if you want to engage yourself in such activity, trying to find an institution, a center that are already familiar with the activity, people that are already familiar with that task. Because if something happens, chances are that the group will be able to help you. But if you try to have only new people, like, I never heard about Kardec, I never heard about mediumship, we have a few things that happen to us, it's a bit weird. So let's put 3-4 people with different characteristics together without experience and start a meeting. I'm not saying we'll go wrong, but you have more risks than if we decide to go with people that are familiar with the activity and serious Spiritist centers. In this way, whatever, and then let me just stop here, because I said that, I don't want people to misunderstand what I said. Yeah, but on the beginning, we never had people with experience, and they started anyway, isn't it? Yes, they did. They did. But they also found problems. They had difficulties. And when we recommend people not to start like we started 300 years ago, it's because what they did 300 years ago did work. And through their work, through their knowledge, today we learned how to start meetings safely. So we will reduce the possibilities to have problems.
Guilherme,
yeah.
I think one thing important to mention here is that obviously the spirits will know more about us than the other way around. And we then, by our intentions, by our mind, by the way we think and what we attract, then we are going to attract the situations that it is corresponded to the way we see things and we feel. And obviously, if we are interested in participating in groups like that, like in my group in Cardiff, we only had a couple of people that had experience from other group on working on mediumship. But we were already seriously studying. We had the consistency in studying and, you know, doing this for some time. So I guess we had the will to do something with mediumship and start our practice, and to go forward in doing this charitable work. But we wanted, more importantly or not, as you said, you know, there were people that had some experience, there are others that were not experienced, but then we wanted to help, and we have already been studying for a while. And I guess the spirits will see, and they will understand the intentions of people that are involved in the group.
You said this, two things. One, serious study. Two, people that had experience. You don't need to have 10 doctors to start your meeting, but you need to have at least someone with some level of experience, because that will bring you safety to your meeting. If you don't have that person with already experience to start your meeting, depending on the level of the studies you have done, I would start anyway. But I would start after a serious study of what can go right and what can go wrong. Understanding about obsession, understanding about indoctrination, understanding about the mechanism that is used by the spirits to have a communication, because that will allow you to minimize your problems. Understanding of the fluids is very important too. So there are ways to do, and the information is there. Yeah, if the people are serious about it, I don't see a problem. But quite often, when you are putting together a team like that, the spirit team itself, they will find someone that will come closer to help you on that adventure. If this person will not stay there permanently, the person will come to the initial couple of meetings to give you guys more security, give you guys more confidence in what you're doing. And even if you don't have that automatically, you can ask, well, I know you already work in that activity for X amount of years in your institution. Can you not come with us for at least a month or two, just to give us an additional push, I'm pretty sure you'll find someone that will be willing to do it. I think it's normal. I think that is normal, right? We should not understand that some difficulties are there not to do the job. The difficulties are there to push us to learn, to commit ourselves more seriously to the job, and things will happen anyway. But that's down to the people, right? Very nice what you said. In this way, whatever may be the order, I did that already. Being aware of the difficulties ahead of time, they can stay alert and spare themselves from gaining experience at their own expenses, right? We are clever if we learn with other people's mistake. Since the time we began to concern ourselves with Spiritism, it would be difficult to determine the number of people who have approached us and how many among these remain indifferent and disbelieving when confronted with most obvious phenomena, only to be convinced later through a rational explanation. How many others were predisposed to accept Spiritism through their reasoning, and how many finally were persuaded without having witnessed anything at all, but were led to it because they comprehended. Therefore, we speak from experience, and that is why we have affirmed that the best method of teaching Spiritism is the one that is geared towards the reason and not the eyes. This is the method we use in our lessons and for which we congratulate ourselves. When we understand, it's very difficult to say that I do not believe, because I understand the mechanism. I understand the laws that are involved in such a phenomena. If I only accept one information because I saw the phenomena, the day I have an access to someone saying and trying to prove by A plus B equal to C that's not true, I will change my mind, because I don't have that confidence in the information that will give me the strength to even say, no, what you're saying does not make sense. So yes, reasoning is the best way forward. Studying the Spiritist theory beforehand has a further advantage in that it immediately shows the grandeur of goal and the scope of this science. Those who first come to watch a table turn or produce raps may be inclined to ridicule it, since it is difficult to imagine that a table could give rise to a doctrine meant to regenerate humankind. I never saw a table turning, and possibly I would think straight away that was a trick. I would not believe. If that I had that if that was my first encounter with the Spiritism, a table turning, I would probably I wouldn't bother. But after being acquainted to the rational explanation about what is behind the table turning, then I would see that table turning with a different pair of eyes. So I think that's, I guess, is majority of people like that. I don't know. We have always noticed the fact that rather than being superficial, those who believe without having seen, but because they have read and comprehended, are most thoughtful, connecting more with the foundation than the form. They see the philosophical aspects as the most important and the phenomena per se as only accessories. They have stated that even if there were no phenomena at all, the philosophy in and of itself is the only one that can resolve the many problems that until now have been unsolvable. the only one that offers the most rational theory concerning humankind's past and future. We used to say quite often that we can find, if not all, most of the answers in Kardec's book. I don't remember having a question that I could not find an answer in Kardec. I'm not saying there isn't, but I'm trying to think here now. I don't remember having a question that I could not find at least the beginning of the answer in Kardec. I don't. So yeah, if you do find anything, guys, please let me know, because perhaps we can open up a different possibility to us to study here. Thus, they prefer a doctrine that correctly explains matter to one that does not explain them, or that explains them badly. However, would reflect on the issue will clearly understand that one could disregard the manifestation without the doctrine itself having to disappear. The manifestation corroborates and confirms the doctrine, but they do not comprise its essential foundations. The serious observer does not reject them, but, on the contrary, waits for the favorable circumstances that will allow him or her to witness them. Our progress is proven by the fact that before even hearing about the manifestation, many people already had an intuition about the doctrine, which merely came to embody the ideas in a coherent whole. I think it's clear here, isn't it? I don't think we need to make comments, unless if you guys want to make any comment.
Gil, it's Christine again.
Hi, Christine.
I just want to make a comment. When my mother passed away, and my father had passed away a couple of years beforehand, the family was to sell the house. I decided to buy, with what my mother left me, to buy their property. Things have been happening that I have said to my husband, and he's a non-believer of everything, but he could not disbelieve that something strange, in his words, was happening, because the dishwasher was starting by itself, and he was looking for a mechanical answer to that. There was knocks, and he'd go to the door and there was no one there. And I didn't try and talk to him and say, now do you give some credence to what I'm saying and what I'm studying? I just let him, and he just would say, that's very odd. And when he says that's very odd, that means he's thinking about what is happening, which to me is a good thing, and tells me, it just shows me or tells me that what Kardec was trying to convince a lot of people of is true. And you always use the phrase, I don't believe, I know. And I say, I agree. I don't believe, I know.
Mm-hmm. But you can tell him something, Christine. What do you think it is? Can you tell me what you think it is? Can you elaborate a theory of what you saw? The machine is starting by itself, you know, the water tap opening or closing by itself, and a few other things, right? And if you don't, I have a theory on my own. Could be this. And that's the way people start to think, well, maybe yes. And then sometimes they are interested enough to dig into it a little bit. But yeah.
With the dishwasher, my mother hated the dishwasher. Hated it. She actually got it disconnected. So I believe, I know, no, I believe at that point, it's my mother letting me know that she's there. With the knocking, there was always people knocking at the door. And so she always wanted to welcome people in. I believe, I know, that's her.
Yeah, could be. Why I'm saying could be? Because I like always to evaluate every single possibility before I consider there are spiritist phenomena. And I believe they could be. Now, don't get me wrong. But I'm a bit skeptic every time I see something, because I understand that's my duty. I need to eliminate every other shape and form or possibility before I say, yes, it is spiritism related. And I think that is kind of my safe mode every time I'm facing a possible phenomena. But yeah.
Well, yeah, my husband with the dishwasher, he still believes it's a mechanical problem, even though that can't be resolved. But I've left that. But the knocking, which was right behind him, that was the first time I've seen him, the look on his face, say, what was that? And I said, I don't know. I've actually stopped trying to convince him that there's to open the, there's other possibilities, as you say. Mm-hmm. But to say there's possibilities that we can't see or know or explain. I've stopped saying it.
Yeah, be on the safe side, yes.
Can I just comment on that as well? Because while Christine was saying that, I remember dealing with my husband with certain things as well, because he's a Christian and in a Protestant sense, so he doesn't really start. I don't really get this, I don't really get that. And I respect it, but like Guilherme said, you can say things, but obviously we can't force people to think like us, and it is actually something that Spiritism does not encourage. But the thing is, everything that we say and that we show will be a seed for later on. Like he used to say about death a lot. Then one day I used to say, oh, don't talk about it. And I was like, no, yeah, we should talk about it. So I said, that's okay. So when you die, you must make a prayer, my love. Make a prayer and wait for someone to go there and be with you. So he turned to me and like, is she really talking this to me? I said, look, don't forget about it. Just make a prayer. When you die, if you see that we are not answering you, that we're ignoring you, that things are strange, make a prayer. Because we never know. Like we see in the literature that many spirits sometimes they don't know they passed, and this is something important for him to know. But it is like we get ourselves into certain situations, and then all of a sudden we remember something that someone said. It's not like someone sometimes very distant from our, oh yeah, someone said that to me, and it is happening now. And about spiritist phenomena, I think us as a spiritist, and as someone that are interested in studying it seriously, and based on what Kardec has taught us through the books, I think we need to always treat it with as a natural thing. Like my kids sometimes, oh, blah, blah, blah. Oh my God, this is happens. It's okay. It's okay. Oh my, I felt this. Just say welcome. You're welcome. Hello. And then go on with your day, love. We we culturally live like concerning phenomena as something very paranormal and superstitious and involving something else, and the Spiritism actually say that it's part of natural laws, it's a natural thing, so we should always treat it naturally, and then people will get the confidence from us. It's something natural, it's fine, it's fine.
Interesting, very interesting what you're saying, you know. And what time is it? Let me see here. We don't have much time to evolve here, but then something came to my mind, right? Eventually, we all will find what is out there, because we're not going to be here forever. And I have an aunt that she's like, what, 80 plus now, and she's really afraid about spirits and anything related to it. And every time I used to visit her, I used to say, "Hi, aunt, how you doing? You all right?" Yeah. And before I left her place, I used to say, "Hey, remember that if you need me, I will be in a mediumship meeting this and this date at that particular time. So if you feel like you're in trouble, you know where to find me." And she was really scared about it. But the reality is, we will find ourselves in that scenario, if we like or not. And if we have a bit of open mind, that definitely will help us.
Mind you, Guilherme, the comments I said to my husband stopped him from talking about that with me.
I understand. I'm not surprised though. Well, let me stop sharing here. So guys, we are coming to the end of our study, and I would like to thank you all for being here. Every weekend is very nice to see you all here, and I hope you had enjoyed our time together. And Munir, would you like to do a final prayer?